10 random magic cards, day number 74. Thank God it's Friday if you're watching these in order. Hope your weekend goes well. Let's see how your weekend starts. The first card of the day, it's Witching Well. Okay, that's all right. Throne of Eldraine. That's what this was originally printed in. A single blue mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. You can also pay 3 and a blue and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. Solid. Solid ETB trigger. Gives you an artifact, a permanent on the table to do stuff with. Scry 2 is not terrible for a single mana. And the sacrifice to draw 2, I guess I'll take that as well. Like altogether a fine little card that didn't see much play in Throne Standard, but I still think has some pretty viable use cases. So I'll give this card a 4.66. I think that we're in that territory somewhere. We're getting there with Witching Well. It's not that bad. But next is Force Field. Oh boy. What is the actual Oracle text nowadays on this card? This only costs 3 mana to play. It is an artifact. It says poly artifact. Ignore that. It's just an artifact. If you pay 1, the next time, 1 mana, the next time an unblocked creature of your choice would deal combat damage to you this turn, prevent all but 1 of that damage. Back in the day, it was 1, lose only 1 life to an unblocked creature. This card is sick, dude. This card is... God, $500 to order right now. From Collector's Edition, it's only $80, which is still way too much. Jeez, is that too much? If you want the Unlimited Edition one, yeah, $449. God, that's crazy. But the card is kind of worth, well, it's not worth, no Magic card is worth that. I'm convinced no Magic card is worth $500. Even like Moxen and stuff. Why is it $500? Jeez, dude, it's a piece of cardboard. It's a game piece. Come on. And I'm one of those game piece people. Yes, groan at me all you want. I'm a game piece person. Because that's what it is. I know scarcity was a thing. I don't care. Why is it 5? Jeez. But anyway, Black Lotuses cost as much as a house. Stop. But Force Field is undeniably a very good Magic card, man. If you have a bunch of mana, you can effectively just fog entire, opponents, plural, combat steps. And it's not too hard to envision a world where you can do that. And you're not really fogging them because you're still taking 1 damage apiece. But, with effects like Urza's Armor or something, then, you prevent that damage entirely. And that's a cute little combo. But there's other ways to effectively just take no damage. Some damage mitigation effects that play along with Force Field. But you don't need to combo it with anything. It's just a stupid card in and of itself. And there's a reason it was never printed again outside of Unlimited Edition because it's just busted, dude. The card is annoying. The card is very annoying. If you've never played against it, congratulations. If you want to play with it, shell out $80 at the very least. And there's a reason for that. There really is. God, what do you give a card as ridiculous as Force Field? This card it's more of a trap than it looks like. Before we move on, I want to state that it is more of a trap than it looks like. It is much more mana intensive than it looks like, especially in the commander environment. So keep that in mind. We'll give this card. Audience, ask the audience, Lifeline. I'm throwing it out to you. I will rate this card, but this is probably the card today I will guess that I'm most likely to ask you on. So I'm going to go ahead and use it. What is Force Field? Probably the highest score I'll give a card today. I'm going to give Force Field an 8. Solid 8. Probably deserves an 8.5. But again, I'm acknowledging the mana intensiveness of the card is higher than it appears. And you're skipping a turn to play it a lot of the time, right? But back in the day, Force Field on 3, take a shot to the head on my next turn, and then Wrath of God was the end of the game. Most of the time. And it could still be that way if they printed this card. So, stupid card. Silly that it exists, but still in some ways one of my favorite cards. This used to be under glass at Comics Plus back when I first started going there. And the card was like $60. And I was like, God, who would pay $60? I'm 11, dog. I think it was $60. And now I wish that I'd just cut a few lawns and bought the stupid thing. Because I would still be playing it to this day. It would probably look like garbage because I shuffled it a million times. But yeah, Force Field's good. It's a good card. Next is Polluted Mire. Originally printed in Urza's Saga. This is one of the cycling lands. It's a land that enters play tapped. Taps for a black mana, but it also cycles for 2. These are solid. Solid cards, man. Cycling on a land is just good. It just is, always. So I'm going to give this a 5.9. I'm going all the way there. I'll give the card a 6. I'll give all these cycling lands a 6. They are very, very good lands. And I know they don't see play in all the commander decks or anything. And Well, here's what we'll do. These get the 5.9. And again, I want to rate them higher than that. I'm itching to rate them higher than that. But if we ever see like Baron Moore and the other ones that you cycle for a single mana of their respective color, those will get the 6. Even though I think those are more than half a point higher than this, or a tenth of a point higher. Actually, yeah, I'll do it this way. These will get the 6. Those will get like a 6.5 or something. So 1 mana to draw cards is just good. And there's reasons you want to put a land in your graveyard, which is why this card's good too. You know, if you're doing Splendid Reclamation effects, card's good. So a lot of stuff goes with it. I'll give it a 6. I'm sticking to my guns here. Benevolent Bodyguard, originally printed in Judgment here, is... Oh, I got to do a tick mark for that card. Benevolent Bodyguard is a white mana for a 1/1 cleric. Sacrifice it. Target creature you control gains pro color of your choice till end of turn. So why wouldn't I just play Mother of Runes? It's like a really bad Mother of Runes. I'll acknowledge there might be reasons you want to sacrifice a creature. Maybe you need another effect like this in your cleric stack. It is 1 mana to save one of your guys. That's what you want those effects to cost, typically. So, you know, they have to remove this dude before they remove anything else on the table. It's probably better than I think it is. Especially considering it's $2.59 from Judgment and 53 cents from Eternal Masters. So, like, people are playing it. You know, again, not Mother of Runes or anything, but probably better than I first gave it credit for. My knee-jerk reaction. Because, again, it's like a save a guy spell that you can reanimate in a variety of ways for, like, really, really cheap, you know. It's like, maybe it's better than I think it is. I'm going to give this... a 5.1. I really am. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, you can use that. You can use that. Next is Icatian Javelineers. Another... Dude, it's been a Fallen Empires kind of week here. What's you guys' favorite Javelineers art? That's not all the prints. There's 4, right? Are there really only 3 arts of this card? Huh. Well, all right. The one that's seen the most print, because I think it was also in like Time Spiral, was this one on the left-hand side of your screen. But I think my favorite is the Benson art over here. This is 1 white mana for a 1/1 soldier, human soldier specifically. When it enters the battlefield, it gets a Javelin counter. You can also tap it and remove the counter to have it deal a damage to any target, your opponent included. Ghost Face. It's actually gotten better over the years because it can hit planeswalkers in a way. But I wouldn't say it's gotten better over the years. It's probably not an accurate statement entirely, you know, because creatures have gotten better over the years. And so this has kind of been left behind. But I will say this is still like semi-okay. It really is. This didn't get like power crept as much as a lot of other, you know, creatures have. You know, it's still a playable 1-drop in some ways. Doesn't have very good power toughness, obviously. But the ability to just like snipe a thing is good. We've seen that on like Orcish Bowmasters, that can be good some of the time. So just snipe a thing or like deal the last damage to the face. This is actually in, I think there was a point this was in White Weenie pretty consistently. And I think it was in, even though I don't see it in World Championships decks here, so like don't quote me, but I think it may have been in the White Weenie deck that, you know, beat Might Long at the 98 Pro Tour, the one that was like on ESPN, or one of the ones that was on ESPN back in the day. God, I wish I could remember his name right now, but I can't. It may have been Matt something. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. There's no way you're watching this, but still. White Weenie won that particular Pro Tour, and I'm fairly certain it had Javelineers, but maybe Javelineers was out of the format by then. All I know is that Javelineers saw very regular play in White Weenie, which, from kitchen table to competitive play, was a very good deck back in the day. I'm going to have to give this card the honorary 5 of the day. I'm going to do it. I think it deserves it, man. Javelineer is a good Magic card. It still is. I'm convinced. But I'm dumb. Next is, Githzerai Monk. This is 5 mana, 4 and a white for a 3/2 Gith Monk with flash and flying. And it has Psychic Defense. When it enters the battlefield, tap all the creatures you don't control. Ooh, okay. This is from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. I have never seen this card in my life. So you flash it in at the end of, you know, your opponent's turn, the one that's you, the person next to you, their turn. And then you just all out attack like it's Persona 5. Well, the one I'm playing right now is Persona 3 Reload. It's really good, but in any case, I'm also playing Chef RPG. I just started it last night. God, it's really good. But anyway, Githzerai Monk looks okay. I mean, 5 mana for a 3/2 is not a good stat line, but I don't really think you're in it for the stat line. I think you're in it for the fact that it flashes in and also blinks like insanely well. Like it. Okay, so you can be attacking and tap all your guys down and just like swing in and deal a bunch of damage, but also like in your turbo fog deck, this just like blinks to turbo fog. You know, it blinks to fog in a way. You know, blinks to where like you won't be attacked this turn, or your opponent can't attack anybody that turn. So that's kind of neat. I like this. I kind of like this more than I probably should, and I'm gonna give it a 5.1. Yeah, based on what I usually give, like slightly higher than a 5 to. I don't know if that sounds like kind of out of pocket or not, but I think this card is potentially okay, dude. I I kind of do, but we'll move on to New Frontiers. Only ever printed in Odyssey, and it's worth $5. Good Ron Spencer art here, always is. X and a green for a sorcery. Each player may search his or her library for up to X basic land cards, put them into play tapped. Then each player who searched his or her library this way shuffles. So, okay, it's an each player effect, symmetrical effect. And then you have to say go. So, I don't know about all of that now, but I will say, I mean, pump X equals 4. And then, it's 5 mana for 4 ramps. It's pretty good. And like maybe you're taking the chance that not everyone plays as many basic lands as you. So like everyone stuffed their deck with non-basics, and so they can't even like get the proper number of basics. That would be a thing, I guess. Even if X equals 3, like you play this for 4 mana, go get 3 lands. That's pretty good. But in most cases, I'd rather play a card like Explosive Vegetation and just go get the 2 lands and not give my opponent ramp they get to untap with before me. So I don't know. Man. I want to rate this card pretty high. I think that obviously like landfall decks use it as a flying elbow, right? Like a finishing move off the top rope. 450 splash, shooting star press, whatever you want. Cobra clutch. But outside of landfall, is it good? Even in ramp decks, is it good outside of landfall? But boy, in landfall, it seems like absolutely ludicrous, which is probably why it's so expensive, because landfall decks are pretty popular and it's only ever printed in one set. In landfall, this card's a 9. Anywhere else, I'm going to give this card a... God, that's tough, guys. I think it's kind of bad. I really do. So like anywhere else, I'm going to give this card like a 4.4. But in landfall, it's like objectively crazy. So keep that in mind. Next is Galena's Knight. Okay, card from Invasion. Only ever printed in Invasion. White and blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Knight with Pro Red. This was actually played back in the day when Invasion first came out. By the way, it has the artist's name is one of my good buddies' names from back in the day. It's David Martin. Didn't play Magic, just a good guy. Anyway, yeah, this doesn't die to Lightning Bolt. It just attacks through mono red creatures. Blocks mono red creatures, doesn't take any damage to them, and just sits there all game and annoys mono red decks. So this was super playable out of sideboards, and I remember it seeing, out of sideboard play back in the day. And in Fish, blue-white Merfolk, it just saw play in the main deck because of the creature type. But yeah, Galena's Knight, I'm going to give like a... Protection's a good ability, and this is, protection from red, black, and white are the best protective abilities to have because they're the ones with all the good removal. And in some cases, a lot of the good creatures, too, that you want to block and attack into freely. So protection from red is highly valuable, and I will give this card a 4.7. I think it's still really good. If you're looking at cubes and stuff, this might be a card you want to balance in. But you do have to balance it in. But we'll move on to our Armillary Spear here. This is 2 mana for an artifact. Pay 2, tap it, sack it to search your library for 2 basic land cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So Wayfarer's Bauble, but you pay more, but you get more. I don't know. This card's not too impressive. I think you're paying an awful lot of mana, even in installments, to do this. But 2 lands can potentially be good, right? You're stacked on drops for the next couple of turns. So I don't hate it. I will give it a 4.7. 4.69. Let's move on to Island. All basic lands get a 5 and don't count. I've never loved the Zendikar. We're going to put one of these Hedron things in all the arts. I just want to throw that out there. Next is, wow, Plains, 2 basics in a row. I think we maybe even have gotten this Plains before. All basics get a 5. This one's from Portal. I really like this Schuler art. I really like Douglas Schuler, apparently. But I do like this kind of Savannah-y Plains art. It's really good. Rockface Village from Bloomborough. This is up next. This is a land. You can tap it for a colorless mana. You can tap it for a red, but you only spend that mana to cast a creature. You can also pay a red and tap it and have target lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control get +1/+0 till end of turn and gain haste. Activate only as a sorcery. So obviously there are mice in standard as I record this video and lizards that are seeing a lot of play. Mice isn't really a deck by itself necessarily, but sometimes you will see kind of a mice theme built around mono red that just happens to play some mice. And lizards is just a good sort of, tier 2.5 aggro deck right now. So this card's playable in standard, and obviously it's playable in commander if you're on these creature types, but it's just good in a vacuum in some ways because it enters untapped and taps for, red mana, not just colorless. Obviously, it's a little restrictive, and obviously it's a little narrow in terms of these creature types. These aren't super played creature types, but I got to mention that in Changeling, obligatory Changeling reference, the card's good. Your whole mana base can be these cards in Changeling. I think that's cool, but altogether, I can't really give the card more than like a 5.9. I think this is the 5.9. Enters play untapped, good. Very narrow outside of that, not great. So, final card of the day, still a pretty decent card, I gotta say. But we have just got a couple of days left in this week, everybody. Hope that your weekend continues to shape out great. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.